ladies and gentlemen. This is May 29th, 1954. It is 7:30 in the evening of what has been a beautiful warm day, perfect weather for the 25th reunion of the class of 1929 of North Tonawanda High School. As you know, an informal reception was held at the high school this afternoon at 2 p.m., followed by a lineup of the famous 1928 football team. After this, 2 busloads of guests went on a tour of the city, including Old Felton High School and all of the new schools under construction at this time. This evening we are speaking to you from the ballroom of the Elks Club in North Tonawanda, where the reunion and banquet and dance are about to take place. The whole room, as well as tables, are beautifully decorated in the colors of the 29 class, yellow and white. Colored lights play on a mass of colored balloons caught high up at the ceiling. Soft dinner music is coming from all parts of the room. 110 guests have gathered for this big occasion. The group picture of classmates and those attending the Washington trip in 1929 has just been completed. Everyone is at his place. The Toastmaster, Gordon Felton, is about to make an announcement. We take you now to the rostrum. You will note that it calls for the Toastmaster to make this toast, but that is an error in printing. It was not so planned. However, inspiration takes the place in a case of necessity. We feel that if one of us were to do the toasting, we would more or less be toasting ourselves. So I've asked a member of the junior class, the class of 1930, to present this toast for us and with us, and it's with a great deal of pleasure that I introduce to you a fellow you all know, Oak Phillips.
Sit down, Hugh. It was very nice of my good friend Gordon to mention the class of 30. I had a piece of that, too. Also, a chunk of 31 and a little bit of 32, and as a matter of fact, since this is the first time you've all been together since you got out, you've got the treble tuned way up here, haven't you? I sound like a soprano. I got a signal from the kitchen that the steaks were not quite cooked, and I'm supposed to kill the time here now, so you can wait a few minutes. Now listen to me. Are you getting anything but the lisping sounds? I can't hear anything myself. Do something with the music. It's all right? Huh? All right. 1929 was a nice year. As I look back, I think it was the last year my dad had any money. The class of 29 was unique. You all know that, don't you? But some of you have brought your wives along, and some of you have brought your husbands, and you don't know that it is as unique as we, who were there at the time, know that it was unique. This is supposed to be a toast. For this we gotta have dignity. Hello, Ed. In 1929, the kids were not as bad as they could have been, nor as good as they could have been. As we look around and go over the programs that our good friend Bob Lewis has cooked up for the occasion, you can see that 99% of you didn't turn out as bad as you thought you would. We've lost a few. It's not likely that you'll have a 50th anniversary. It's possible, but not likely, you know. This silver anniversary of the 29 class is something for each of you to take home for the rest of your lives. Give it just about 10 seconds to think about while I go over here and get my drink. Gordon said that I was a junior. That's right. I think probably he should have said I was a kibitz. You'll all agree to that. I kibitzed on every class that had anything to do with anything that was going on all the while I was over there, and I'm still doing it, as you can see. But believe me, we got here tonight. Let's see if I can run them off without looking around. Wallace Bitters. We've got Louis Mason, Anna Leonhardt, Claude Moss. I am the last male person to leave the new high school that ever went to the old Felton School. Do you realize? Mason we got rid of in 28, I think. 27. Mr. Bitters didn't come to the old school. Miss Leonhardt was in both, but she's not a male. And Mr. Moss left the job of principal because he couldn't get rid of me. Believe me, and I'm only killing time here now till Mary gets the steaks upstairs or whatever we're eating tonight. She just signaled me that they're nearly ready to serve, so let's get this over with. I love you all. It's been a pleasure to see you all back, but that's not the business of this announcement. I am to give a toast to the class of 29. To lead that toast in order that it may not be a toast to one of the class, this is off the cuff now. I'll give you the class of 29. Raise your glasses, boys and girls. And I think it's worth getting on your feet for. North Tonawanda High School, 1929. Thanks very much. Excuse me. There was never a finer bunch of boys and girls who have ever taken their responsibilities in serving their communities and their nation. We don't owe it to one another. We don't owe it to anything that our mothers and fathers told us. I'll give you, and I think it will be a unanimous consent, the responsibility for the class of 29 making out as well as it has done in 25 years of being tried in the fire and not found wanting. It'll only be another 30 seconds, Harry. We owe this toast not to the class of 29. We don't want to brag for yourselves. I'll keep myself out of it. Let us thank the gentleman who we resented until we grew up to the point where we realized that he knew better than we did. I give you Claude Moss.
You will all find a Songs of the Roaring Twenties songbook at your place. And we think that before we go any further, we ought to do the alma mater. So let's listen while we go through it once, and then let's all join in. And Art Kuhn, whom we are very pleased to have as our song leader for our reunion banquet, will lead us in this alma mater and in all of the other songs during the evening.
Okay. Let's all stand. Let's go. I didn't let you sit down again. When in the evening the Niagara's swelling fall, breathing its silence through our high school hall, into the happy moment, love for alma mater swells, in the heart recalling on her glory dwells, and the alma mater, fairest theme of all our days, and the alma mater, ever bless thy day. And inspiring, be our aims inspired by thee, bold and untiring, may our course there be. Though we leave thy portals, still with us thine influence dwells, in our hearts abiding, of thy power tell, and the alma mater, fairest theme of all our days, and the alma mater, ever bless thy day. Friends, teachers, classmates, as we raise our farewell song, blending our voices, send its strain along into the radiant future, where our vexing duty leads. May our present vision blossom in beauty, and the alma mater, fairest theme of all our lives, and the alma mater, ever bless thy day. Let's see. Steps on the street, it's a precious little thing called love. Why am I content alone when I know someone will fall? It's a precious little thing called love. I see a day in June, a wedding June, a honeymoon through. Friends I know who will throw some rice and old shoes. What's the one thing makes me say heaven's just across the way? It's a precious little thing called love.
president of the senior class of 1929, Robert L. Lewis.
Thank you. Mr. Toastmaster, Mr. Moss, and middle-aged classmates. Well, let's face it. After all, life begins at 40. Isn't that right, Marie? Would know? Okay. I want to take this opportunity to say that I've been greatly pleased to continue on our 25th anniversary to assume the duties president of this class again. And right now, it is appropriate, I believe, to say that this gathering was made possible by a considerable amount of work by a number of people, headed by the general chairman of the reunion committee, our esteemed politician, Hugh McLean III. It would be impossible to give due credit at this time to all of the many people who assisted so ably. However, it is, I believe, fitting to say that we do greatly appreciate the help we have had from the local press, the Tonawanda News. Now, just as a sidelight, our chairman happened to be over in the news office one day. As a matter of fact, I believe he was there every day. And by way of kidding, was accusing the editor of putting some of our publicity on the inside pages. Whereupon one of the boys turned to Hugh McLean and said, "Why, man, when General Eisenhower returned home to Abilene, he didn't get the publicity you homecomers are going to be getting." And I believe that is true. I hope our friend Mayor Joyce will overlook this usurping of publicity during the past week. We are sorry he couldn't be with us tonight. While giving credit, I would also like to express appreciation to Mr. Wurlitzer of the Rudolph Wurlitzer Company, who made possible this fine organ for Mr. Felton to play. It cost us a small amount to have this organ, but in case any of you would like to purchase it, you can save us the return price. I'm sure Smitty down here could take care of that. Now, as I look at this group and think back to the 25 years, to the time of 1929 when we were graduated, and see what a prosperous-looking, handsome group this is, it seems hard to realize that we started so inauspiciously. Our colleague of the junior class related as to the fact that 1929 was the last year he recalled that his dad had any money. I, if you'll pardon a personal reference, recall 1929 as the first year I had any money. I got a job then in the cafeteria, as I recall, through Mr. Moss. Thank you. Shortly after, I recall one of my friends who had, by then we had graduated from school, and he was very jubilant because he had just had gotten a job, 40 cents an hour for 40 hours. And believe me, he had looked long and hard. But he remarked that although the pay wasn't much, he said that there wasn't much danger that he'd be fired because the company really wouldn't miss the $16 a week anyway. But he was wrong because we were both back in school taking postgraduate courses shortly afterwards. And if you recall briefly, in the 29s, there was considerable danger at the time, right after the crash. The greatest danger, I believe, was being hit on the head by people jumping from buildings. And, of course, that has changed. Today, the greatest danger in this era of the H-bomb is being hit by the buildings itself. But those are some of the changes. Now, enough of this backward glance to the 40s, to the 29s. We, as we said in our program, there would be no long speeches. I will cut this short. Our junior member took up one of the longest totes I believe I've ever heard, and however, it was very well done. Thanks, Oak. I believe it was Emerson that said, an institution is the lengthened shadow of one man. I refer to a friend of ours here tonight who measures up to this remark in more than one way. Mr. Moss is our guest of honor tonight. You all know Mr. Moss and his long years of faithful service. I believe it would be fitting at this time to recall a tribute paid to Mr. Moss in the during the year that he retired. I believe it was 1940. Pardon me if I can find it. I had so many papers here when I came in, programs and everything, I think I've mislaid it. But in the year 1940, the North Star published this tribute to Mr. Moss. In part, it reads as follows. The members of this board, this referring to the Board of Education, the members of this board are a unit in expressing their appreciation to Mr. Moss as an efficient and conscientious administrator. One whose influence has been inspiring alike to teachers and to pupils. Clean character, above reproach in his personal habits, and an ideal model for young people, not only of the schools, but of the whole city as well. He is a man of scholarly attainment, a clear thinker, pleasing and dignified in his English expression, a man with fine ideals, true to his high code of honor, and one of unquestioned integrity. I think that tribute is much better expressed than I could do it, and I'm sure we all agree that this is typical and fitting of Mr. Moss, our former principal, who at this time I would like to have say a few words. Mr. Moss.
Members of the class of 1929 and guests. I'm not going to make a speech, but just to steer me from wandering while I was waiting for Mr. Mason to come and bring me down to this fine gathering, I jotted down a few notes, which I shall try to follow because, as a former speaker said, there are to be no long speeches. If I should say just one small fractional part of the things that I could well say tonight, I'm afraid you'd be here until you were very, very tired indeed. Now, one thing I do want to disabuse your minds of, and that is the idea that there will be I can say for myself, I could have attended a number of years ago my 50th high school class reunion. I could have attended the 50th reunion of my graduation from Teachers College. If I hadn't had to start out to work 5 years before I went to university, I would be attending the 50th anniversary of my university class this year. As it is, they're having their 45th. So you see, there's still hope for you. I believe that I appreciate as much as anyone the tremendous amount of work that has gone on in preparation for this occasion. I doubt if any of you who have not been in the families of those connected with it have a full realization of what it's been all about. But I understand this has been going on for over a year. And lately it's been quite strenuous. Indeed, one of the high school teachers said to me just the other day, referring to two of your number who were doing some work down there, he wondered whether they didn't have anything else to do except make arrangements for this affair. And judging from the amount of work that's gone into preparation of these booklets which we have, there certainly have been people who have been very generous of their time. I want to pay tribute to those who have come from a distance. I think the long-distance record goes to Mr. and Mrs. Wen, I believe. Others have come from considerable distance. The Ruth Reinicke Herring has come from a distance. Alan Depper came from Albany. There's one of us, I forget which one, came from Connecticut. I believe that everyone that's made that trip, long-distance trip, feels very, very well satisfied. In fact, they told me that it was well worthwhile. And I know one person who was Jimmy Wendell. And I know how far Jimmy came because I drove from the eastern part of Michigan the other day myself, and I know it's a good long ride, and he's a good deal farther on the other side of the state. And then I know one person that was afraid he might not come because he didn't think he'd remember anybody, and that's Mr. Mason. And I'm sure he had a pretty good time. I want to express my personal appreciation of all the nice things that you've said about me and have done for me. I won't try to say anything further. I just couldn't. One of the nicest things you've said is that I look just the same. Now, I take that with several spoonfuls of salt. Not for the reason that Mr. Rocks gave, because I really wasn't so old when I knew you as pupils after all. I was still in my 40s. In fact, I was in my 30s when I came to North Tonawanda, as far as that goes. But, you know, my young grandson is more truthful than some of you had been. He sat on my lap the other day and he looked up at me and he says, Grandpa, you ain't got much hair. Now that's from a family with a background of 3 generations of pedagogues and where they speak impeccable English, and just see what the English teachers do. I've had quite a bit of difficulty in recognizing some of you, many of you in fact, although when I saw your name I could recognize various characteristics. It wasn't hard then at all. But there's one thing I want to say, and this in all sincerity. You girls have gotten a lot prettier as the years have gone by. And the boys have gotten a great deal handsomer. And you've shown most excellent taste in your choices of husbands and wives. The thing that interests me particularly is the way these husbands and wives of members of the class who didn't know the other members of the class until today have really enjoyed themselves, I believe. I've talked with a lot of them, and it's really a tribute to you as good mixers that thing is true. Now I want to congratulate the class on its initiative in getting up this affair. This class has always had initiative. You've always been able to go ahead and do things. Now, I do know something about you because some of you may remember my older son was a member of the class of 29. My younger son was a member of the class of 32, so I had pretty good tabs on this class on the way through. But I know you did have the push and energy, and that's what put this thing across. You had a yearbook, and I remember it was one thing that vexed me a great deal. I never really got over it. The class of 28 did not have a yearbook. You had one, and it was a good one, too. I've been reading it over with a great deal of interest recently and comparing the past with the present. There's a great deal of difference between the teacher's viewpoint and the pupil's viewpoint. It's clear what things some people remember of their teachers and their schoolboy and girl days. I actually know people, have known people, that were reluctant to meet me after a great many years because of some childish prank going on in school. I had one very interesting experience last summer when I was first out of a teacher's school. I guess I was about 19 years old at that time. I taught 7th and 8th grade. My brother-in-law came home one afternoon, and he said, "You remember Mary Weiss?" I said, "Sure, I remember Mary Weiss." Well, she said she was visiting her uncle across the road, and I wanted to come over and see you. And she didn't think she wanted to because of a trick they played one day in school. I said, "What was it?" Well, she said, "You remember you had your hat in the cloakroom, and they decorated it up like a woman's hat." I said, "Yes, I remember it very well." Well, he said, "The trouble with Mary is you never said anything about the doll, and they never knew whether you were put out or not." Well, now, after all those years, and that was a great many years ago, that's the thing that the girl remembered particularly, and I'd forgotten it, largely. And that's the way with it. You remember your boyish and girlish pranks. Your teacher remember the promise of the future that they saw in you. And it's very gratifying to say that that promise has been fulfilled in such large measure in this fine assemblage tonight. Now, I want to say just one thing in closing. The greatest asset that any school or any school system can have can be a fine and wonderful school system with very mediocre facilities if it has it. And I don't care what sort of facilities you have. If it hasn't it, it won't be. You've got to have the teachers that have the ability and the character. And I do honestly believe that you people in your years in the high school had a good many teachers of that stripe. Now, the important thing is not their learning. A man told me just the other day of visiting a place where I taught before I came to North Tonawanda, and he brought back this word from a relative of his there who told him, he said, "I was certainly a scholar." Well, that was very nice. I appreciated it. And yet, one of your number told me here tonight that something that I had said to him encouraged him to go on and make something of himself. And that sort of a thing means 100 times more to me than all the scholarship or learning that anybody could ever have. And so it's in that thing, in the vision of your teachers, in the character of your teachers, in the interest that they take on with you, with your children, in the forward look, not in the little petty things. Why, I can hardly remember any of the pranks you youngsters played as students. You can. I know it. But you have to tell me they're blotted out. But the vision of what you might be, that was the thing that counted. And those are the teachers that you want. Teachers like Miss Coleman. Wish you were here today. Teachers like Miss Crawford of blessed memory. And others that I might name. I won't go any farther. You can't forget such people. And any school that has them is blessed. Thanks for everything tonight. My heart is too full for others.
I want to say that we certainly have looked forward to those words of yours, Mr. Moss. In fact, I can say that the committee
Come on, all five of you. Grab a hold of a songbook somewhere. And the rest of you grab your songbook. We got to get a little life in here right now, and I don't want this evening to go by without one football song. And let's take number one at the top of the page, NTHS, NTHS. I think we all know how to sing that. These girls will give us a little pep. You'll find it on the inside of the back cover of your songbook, the one at the top. They didn't put on a big enough show down there this afternoon, I didn't think. They got away with a little bit too small an amount in the program. Now, we heard from the students that couldn't be here. We heard from some of our former teachers who couldn't be here. I think that I would like to see those that did come. Now, thinking of the teachers, the one teacher that is now teaching in North Tonawanda High School, that was teaching when we were there, and was there the longest time while we were there, is here with us tonight. And I'd like to have her stand up, Miss Anna Leonhardt. Thank you. Now we have a former teacher with us who didn't finish with us, but he was there before we got there, and he was there part of the time with us, both in the old school, in the new, and it was so nice of him to come down. We've enjoyed seeing him so far, And Mr. Mason, would you please stand up? And anything you care to say will be fine.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Moss, fellow members of our former faculty, and boys and girls. You know, to a teacher, no matter how old you get, you're still boys and girls to all members of the faculty, and I say that in all sincerity. Now, I don't remember whether, when you were in my classes, whether I had the affront to try to tell a story. In recent years, in order to keep my sanity, I found in self-defense that it is necessary every now and then to break in the recitation with a story. And my being here tonight reminds me of a little story of Zeke, who came from the backwoods of Tennessee. Zeke disappeared and came back about 30 days later dressed in the Army uniform of Uncle Sam. His friend said to him, "Zeke, what's all this about?" And in typical Tennessee dialect, he said, "Well," he said, "I've got three good reasons for having this uniform. First, my country needs me. Second, I'm patriotic. Third, they come and got me." Well, I feel very much like Zeke did, because this grand reunion committee reached all the way out to Buffalo and come and got me. And I say in all sincerity, nothing that has happened to me in all the 35 years that I have taught school that has thrilled me as much as this occasion. I want to congratulate the chairman of this committee and all the members for doing something that I have not seen done among the almost 3,000 teachers that we have in the city of Buffalo over a period of 27 years since I have been away from North Tonawanda. It is simply magnificent and something that all of you can be proud of. I want to say a word or two about the distance to which many of you have traveled. I find that some of them are in Texas, and some up in Wisconsin, others in Albany, and various other states. They say Rolling Stones gathered no moss, but we here cannot be Rolling Stones because we've gathered the finest moss that you'll find anywhere. Now, you may not be interested in my personal history, so I'm going to give you a thumbnail sketch of what has happened to me since I left. I came here with Mr. Morse in 1920 and spent the 7 happiest years of my life in North Tonawanda. Then I went to Buffalo. I spent 3 years at Bennett High School, married a very lovely young lady whom I had met in North Tonawanda. We have 3 lovely boys, one 24, one 17, and just to keep in good shape, a little fellow. Grace tells me now we are going to have 3 girls. Now, I'm going to let you in on a little secret, and please don't let it get out to my principal and Board of Education in Buffalo, because I may lose my job. I have a very poor memory. I always have had a very poor memory. I can't remember. That reminds me of a little story. A story about a boy who was very, very forgetful, and the teacher said to him, "Johnny, why are you so forgetful?" And he said, "Well, teacher, it's just like this. 2 years ago, my dad gave me a pair of ice skates, and I went skating, and I fell down and hit the back of my head on the ice. From that, I got water on the brain. Last winter, I went out, and the water froze, and now everything slips my mind." The greatest tribute that I can pay to you with my failing memory is the fact, and it is true, that in this grand gathering, I recognize almost half of you whom I had not seen for 25 years, and there is no greater tribute to the wonderful shape in which you are in today than that fact. Now, I could go on, but I realize the hour is late, and while
we were waiting for our delightful dinner here tonight, I just scribbled a few lines. One of my sidelines has been to attempt to write jingles and short poems, and these thoughts came to me, and I want to give them to you from the bottom of my heart. To this class of 1929. Valiant, faithful, true, and fine, that's the class of 29. Full of ginger, vim, and pep, always happy, right in step. 'Tis my hope you will always be the model class of old NT. And here's a prayer, both yours and mine. Long live the class of 29. Thank you.
Mr. Mason assured me this afternoon it was perfectly okay to call him Louis, and I certainly don't remember doing it in biology class, but I'm so pleased that you would be here with us, and so I guess the rest of us can also call him Louis. Now, the next member of the faculty is an outstanding individual. He was with the fellows an awful lot during our time in high school, both in academic subjects and other ways. A great help on stage productions. I remember the freshman year that we got in there, and some of us at that time were able to take part in this radio show that was put on, and that was a terrific production with Manny and Joe Bolts and all of the others. Manny taught us strictly boys' subject in school, as I said, but when we got down to the point of being seniors, that's when he really was a great help to us in more ways than one. And when we took off for Washington, he was our popular chaperone. We're very happy that he's still around and able to be with us, and I know that we will all enjoy seeing him. Manny, will you stand up, and anything you care to say will be fine. To North Tonawanda High School, as I recall, during our time there, and when he went into the commercial section, some of us missed him as a teacher. However, during the time that we were seniors, he was a great deal of help. And I know from recent experience down in North Tonawanda High School, we've been sort of haunting the place lately. We've run into Mr. Bitters down there, and what is he doing? Well, he tells me I don't teach class much anymore. They got me counting money down there. It's a big operation, you know. When Bob Lewis was working at how much an hour, I don't know, but in the cafeteria, we just had one little line that went through. And today they have 3 or 4 cashiers who take the money, and Mr. Bitters counts it. And but I'll tell you this: he is one of the senior class advisors of the class of 1954. They think a lot of him, and I know that we're all happy to have Wally Bitters with us, and will you stand up, please? Thank you, Mr. Bitters. One of the highlights of the planning was to get back to Old Felton School, which those of us who took that bus trip this afternoon did just that, and it was interesting to get back there. But I think a lot of the people who were unaware of the planning were quite shocked when they got inside the big study hall where we used to have so much fun. And there, sitting up on the platform behind the same bell that used to gong, to stand, to turn, to march, and so on, and they still do it, there was Mr. Myron B. Rock. Daddy Rock. Will you stand up, please? There isn't much difference between well, there's mine, Papa, there's Father, and there's Daddy, and seems to me I recall Daddy around there somewhere in that vicinity. We have one other guest with us tonight, And it's a great pleasure that she was able to be here. Because for those of you who were at the affair this afternoon, you know that she was prominent, obviously, in the planning for that and in the helping of carrying out those plans. And it's interesting. A lot of us ate from time to time, at least in the cafeteria when we were in that high school. And I know that you're pleased to know that Mrs. Shirky is still running the cafeteria and doing a swell job, and she's here tonight. Will you stand up, please? Now, these questionnaires that were sent out.
Speakers in the class of 29. And if you are in disagreement, please speak up. Now, those coming the farthest to attend, it was Howard Gorham that was to fly in from California, but unfortunately, he didn't get here. Now, Mr. and Mrs. Robert Wentz, please stand. Fond du Lac, Wisconsin, is it? Genevieve Hyman James and her husband from where, Genevieve? Waterbury, Connecticut. James Wendell for Grand Rapids. And that was the list. Was there anyone else here that came from, well, out of town? Oh, Helen Deffer from Albany. Listen. Oh, Emma Gill. Try. Now, oh, George. George from Kenmore. George Battle. Now, the first bride in the class of 29 was Elizabeth Billhofer Hessel. The most recent bride, Mary Wendler Mislia. And the first child born to Richard Hessel and Elizabeth, August 3rd, 1931. And the most recent baby, Lucille Lewis, daughter of Dorothy and Bob, July 31st, 1953. But I also understand we have a new baby at Emma Guido Hefferman's house. How old is your baby, Emma? Uh-huh. And now we have some proud grandparents. Mary Parrish Bowgreen. And for the largest families, we have a four-way tie, I understand. Tony and Lois Briggs, Leslie and Elizabeth Hessel, Gordon, and Betty Felton, and with 5 each, and then Emma Guido Heffernan with 5 girls, a set of twins. Stand up! Stand up! Stand up, everybody. We have 2 members in the organization who have worked at the same place for 25 years, Leo Knoll and Nord Berry. Chris Hoffmeister, 2. Please stand. Indeed, there's a wonderful record. We now live from California to Connecticut and have traveled over Europe, Asia, Africa, and the islands of the Pacific. We have a lawyer, doctors, teachers, business executives, politicians, bankers, many fields of business. Believe it or not, we have no bachelors, but we do have 2 very eligible girls.
For the principal purpose of having a good time, we interrupt it only momentarily that I may ask Bob Lewis, as president, to call a brief business session of the class of 29. Bob, will you take over, Prexy?
If you will bear with us momentarily, I know we've all been here quite a while, and this won't take long, and then we'll have a break after this meeting. But we do have several important issues to bring before the group. I would like to ask the vice president of the class to act in place of our secretary. We haven't seen our vice president up here yet. Would she come forward and act as a secretary for tonight, please? Mary Major. where it's convenient, Mary. I don't believe we have any minutes from the last meeting. We'll now declare business meeting, extraordinary business meeting of the class of 1929 in order. At this time, the meeting is open for any new business that should be brought before the group. The chair awaits your pleasure. Lawyer Brick.
Inasmuch as we are all enjoying ourselves at this 25th reunion, I move that we have a reunion 5 years hence, our 30th.
We've had a motion that has been seconded that the class of 1929 hold a reunion 5 years hence. For the secretary, who seconded, please? Put down Lawrence Hurtubise, please. Is there any discussion? If not, all those in favor of meeting of the class of 1929, 5 years hence, signify by raising your right hand, please. You got the count, Secretary? All those opposed to this plan, signify by raising the right hand and giving a good reason. Motion's been carried. Any further proposals, resolutions, business? I recognize the gentleman from Wisconsin. Thank you, Bob. Do we have a second? Any further second? The secretary has to record all this and make it official. We've had the resolution been seconded that all officers continue in office. Sounded like the next 25 years. Right. All those in favor? Do we have any discussion? Maybe we have a nominating committee or another slate or question? All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Any opposition? Signify by raising your left hand. Present officers may look in the book to see who you are. Second resolution has been passed. We'll now consider any further business. You have your hand up, Millard? Mr. Berry of Berry Electric. Thank you, Millard. Briefly, Millard's offer was this. For our 30th reunion, he has offered the facilities of his place. Where, Millard? Between here and Lockport. You can all find it. I understand he has an extensive ranch with complete facilities, and he has been generous enough to offer these facilities for our 30th reunion. If this offer meets the approval, may we have a second? Mr. Board. Thank you. Seconded. The motion has been made and seconded that we, the class of 29, accept Mr. Berry's offer for a reunion at his estate, the exact location to be made known later. In any question, comment? Former Patrolman Askeloff has a point there. However, we'll have to see how we come out on this one first. A point has been made that Puzzo is in a better position than most of us to furnish food. What is the pleasure of the class on this generous offer? Former Patrolman Askeloff has a point there. However, we'll have to see how we come out on this one first. A point has been made that Puzzo is in a better position than most of us to furnish food. What is the pleasure of the class on this generous offer? All those in favor of Mr. Berry's resolution signify by saying aye. Just sing if you're alert. Contrary? Motion's been carried unanimously. We're moving along pretty good. Anything further? You all know our reunion chairman. Hugh, what do you have? This I can tell is important.
I love you all. Mr. Chairman, I submit the following resolution and move its adoption. The North Tonawanda High School class of 1929 has today visited the new schools throughout the city that gave us our education. The pine tree, not the spruce, made our city great, and the pine has already received due honor in the naming of Pinewood School. And whereas General U.S. Grant was a Civil War thing, and we are now, at long last, about to rescue our children from Civil War school buildings. Therefore, be it resolved, Mr. President, that the NTHS class of 1929 in reunion assembled do hereby commend the taxpayers and the Board of Education of North Tonawanda for the current building program, and do hereby petition said Board of Education to honor the mid-20th century military leader who commanded our class president and several members of the class by naming one of our fine new elementary schools the General Dwight D. Eisenhower School. I move it for adoption.
Mr. Fountain?
And I would certainly be amiss if I didn't jump up fast and be the first one to second that resolution.
In case some of you are not aware, Mr. Felton came within being our mayor here tonight by a very few votes on the Republican ticket. This resolution, which I cannot repeat, I'm sure you will agree that only an able politician of Hugh McLean's stature could compile such a noble job as he has done. Is there any discussion? Ready for the vote? All those in favor of the proposal as made and seconded signify by saying aye. Any contrary vote? Signify by... You're out of order. So ready for the vote? Those opposed, beside Mr. McCarthy? The motion as made has been carried. The negative vote has been retracted. The motion is carried unanimously. A motion has been made that the business session be adjourned. Mr. Hoffmeyer has requested the chair. You got some? Got it? Mr. McCarthy. In case you didn't hear, Mr. McCarthy proposes a resolution that all our outstanding bills be paid. Do we have a second? Motion been seconded by Mr. Kilborn. Be careful, he's seconds now. All those in favor of the Reunion Committee 29 honoring the outstanding bills will signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion is carried. Any further business? Is there a motion for adjournment? Motion's been made that we adjourn this session. Seconded. All those in favor of adjourning this extraordinary business section of the class of 29 signify by saying aye. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bob.
The following is the actual dance music which was used at the night of the 25th anniversary at the Elks.
Oh, what a sad mother's I like your lover, laughing right. Lord, I'm mourning, Lord, mourning. My love. were the friends who were near me to cheer me, believe me, they knew. But you were the kind who would hurt me, desert me when I needed you. Yes, you're driving me crazy. What did I do to friends who were near me to cheer me, believe me, they knew. But you were the kind who would hurt me, desert me when I needed you. Yes, you're driving me crazy. What did I do to you? Blue again, and you know darn well it's you again. We said last night we were through again, and now I'm blue again. I'm alone again, I'm out around on my own again, 'cause the mockingbird has flown again, and I'm alone again. Now, baby, though I said I hate you, I love you more every day, babe. Though I aggravate you, honest, I'm dying to say that it's you again, and we'll meet today at 2:30 again, and tonight we'll fight again, and I'll be blue again.
Ladies and gentlemen, after a brief pause, dance number 1 will continue with an encore.
That's all.